Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Warren peered intently into his microscope. His brow furrowed in concentration, eyes narrowed behind thick-rimmed glasses. The sample under scrutiny held the key to unraveling a mystery that had gripped the nation for months. Fascinating, he muttered, adjusting the focus. The cellular changes are unlike anything I've ever seen. Warren leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. He'd been working around the clock, analyzing samples of a new street drug that had authorities baffled. They called it FEM, and its effects were as bizarre as they were concerning. A knock at the door startled him from his thoughts. "Come in," he called out, swiveling in his chair to face the entrance. His colleague, Dr. Amelia Chen, stepped inside. Her lab coat was impeccably pressed, dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Any progress?" she asked, her tone a mix of curiosity and concern. Warren sighed, gesturing to the pile of notes on his desk. "Some, but it's raising more questions than answers. This drug, it's like nothing we've ever encountered." Amelia pulled up a chair, her interest piqued. "How so?" "Well, for starters, it only affects males," Warren explained, reaching for a folder. "Every documented case, every sample we've analyzed, all from men, and the physical changes." He shook his head in disbelief. "You mean the transformation?" Amelia asked, her voice hushed. Warren nodded grimly. "It's not just cosmetic. We're talking about fundamental biological changes at the cellular level. Hormone production, skeletal structure, even chromosomal alterations. It's as if the drug is literally rewriting their genetic code." Amelia's eyes widened. That's impossible, isn't it?" "I would have said so a few months ago," Warren admitted. "But the evidence is irrefutable. Men are becoming women, Amelia, and it's happening faster with each new case." A heavy silence fell over the lab as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a public health crisis. It was a potential threat to the very fabric of society. "We need to alert the authorities," Amelia said finally. "If this drug continues to spread—" "I've already submitted my preliminary findings to the DEA," Warren interrupted. "But something's off. They're dragging their feet, asking for more tests, more data. It's almost as if—" He trailed off, a nagging suspicion forming in the back of his mind. "As if what?" Amelia pressed. Warren shook his head. "Nothing, just a hunch. I need to do more research." As Amelia left, Warren turned back to his microscope, a sense of unease settling in his stomach. Little did he know, his investigation was about to take a dangerous turn. Over the next few weeks, Warren threw himself into his work with renewed vigor. He pored over case files, analyzed blood samples, and conducted countless experiments. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, forming a picture that was as terrifying as it was incredible. One evening, as he was preparing to leave the lab, Warren's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at Oakwood Park, 11 p.m., come alone. Information about FEM." Warren's heart raced. This could be the break he'd been waiting for. Despite the risks, he knew he had to go. The park was deserted when he arrived, lit only by the dim glow of street lamps. Warren pulled his coat tighter around him, scanning the area nervously. "Dr. Warren?" a voice called out from the shadows. He turned to see a figure emerge from behind a tree. It was a woman, or at least it appeared to be. As she stepped into the light, Warren gasped. He recognized the face, but it wasn't possible. "Agent Thompson?" he asked incredulously. "But you're a man, or at least I was," Thompson finished, her voice a mix of bitterness and resignation. "Until I got too close to the truth." Warren's mind reeled. Agent Thompson had been his contact at the DEA, a burly, no-nonsense man who'd been investigating the FEM epidemic. Now, standing before him was a petite woman with long auburn hair and delicate features. "What happened to you?" Warren asked, struggling to process what he was seeing. Thompson's eyes darted around nervously. "There's no time to explain everything. You need to know—" FEM isn't just some new street drug. It's a weapon, Warren. A chemical weapon developed by our own government. Warren felt as if the ground had dropped out from under him. What? That's insane. Why would they... Control. Thompson cut him off. Imagine being able to fundamentally alter the population of an entire country. Change the balance of power. Manipulate demographics. The possibilities are endless. Warren's mind raced, connecting dots he'd previously overlooked. The DEA's reluctance to act, the strange gaps in the data he'd been provided, the feeling that he was being watched. "Who's behind this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Thompson opened her mouth to respond, but her eyes suddenly widened in fear. "We've been made. Run!" Before Warren could react, a sharp pain exploded in his neck. He reached up, fingers closing around a small dart. The world began to spin, and he stumbled, fighting to stay conscious. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Thompson being wrestled to the ground by shadowy figures. Warren awoke to the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. He tried to move, but his limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. Blinking away the fog in his vision, he realized he was strapped to a bed in what looked like a medical facility. "Ah, Dr. Warren, you're awake." A man in a crisp suit stepped into view, his face a mask of cold professionalism.
"I'm afraid you've learned too much. We can't have you jeopardizing national security." Warren struggled against his restraints. "Who are you? What is this place?"
The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes.
"Let's just say I represent certain interests within the government. As for where you are, well, officially, this facility doesn't exist."
A chill ran down Warren's spine as the implications sank in.
"You're going to kill me,"
he stated, surprising himself with how calm he sounded. The man chuckled.
"Oh, no, Dr. Warren. We have something much more interesting planned for you. You see, we've been following your research with great interest. Your insights into the mechanics of FEM have been most valuable. Now, you get to experience its effects firsthand."
Warren's eyes widened in horror as he saw the syringe in the man's hand. "No, please," he begged. "You can't do this."
"I'm afraid we can, and we will,"
the man replied coolly.
"Don't worry, the process is relatively painless. And who knows, you might even enjoy your new life as a woman."
As the needle pierced his skin, Warren felt a burning sensation spread through his veins. He screamed, but no sound came out. The world faded to black once more. Days blurred into weeks as Warren drifted in and out of consciousness. His body burned and twisted, bones reshaping, skin softening. When he was lucid, he could feel the changes happening, powerless to stop them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Warren opened his eyes to find himself in a small, sparsely furnished room. He sat up, noting the unfamiliar weight on his chest, the way his center of gravity had shifted. With trembling hands, he reached up to touch his face, feeling the soft, smooth skin and delicate features. A mirror on the wall confirmed what he already knew. Staring back at him was a woman, petite, with long chestnut hair and wide, frightened eyes. The door opened, and the man in the suit entered, flanked by 2 guards.
"Ah, good. The transformation is complete. How are you feeling, Dr. Warren? Or should I say, Dr. Warrington?"
Warren, now Warrington, glared at him, finding her voice higher and softer than before.
"You won't get away with this. People will notice I'm missing."
The man smirked.
"I'm afraid they already have. Dr. Warren tragically died in a car accident last month." "Very sad. As for you, Dr. Emily Warrington, you're our newest researcher, recently transferred from our West Coast facility."
Warrington's mind reeled.
They'd thought of everything. "What do you want from me?" "Your continued cooperation, of course," the man replied smoothly. "You'll resume your work on FEM, helping us refine and improve it. In return, you get to live. Refuse and, well..."
He let the threat hang in the air. Warrington slumped in defeat. She was trapped, her entire identity erased and replaced. but a small spark of defiance still burned within her. She would play along for now, but she wouldn't give up. Somehow, some way, she would expose the truth and bring those responsible to justice. As the days turned into weeks, Warrington struggled to adapt to her new reality. The physical changes were jarring enough, but the psychological impact was even more profound. She found herself grappling with a storm of conflicting emotions. Anger at what had been done to her, fear of what the future held, and a deep, unsettling sense of disconnection from her own body. The facility where she was held was a maze of sterile corridors and high-tech laboratories. Warrington was given a small, functional living space and access to a state-of-the-art research lab. Her every move was monitored, every conversation recorded. The message was clear: cooperate or face the consequences. Despite her circumstances, Warrington's scientific curiosity couldn't be completely suppressed. As she delved deeper into the mechanics of FEM, she found herself both horrified and fascinated by its complexity. One day, as she was poring over some test results, a familiar face appeared at her lab door. It was Dr. Amelia Chen, her former colleague. Warrington's heart leapt. Had Amelia somehow discovered the truth? But Amelia's eyes showed no recognition. "Dr. Warrington? I'm Dr. Chen. I've been assigned to assist you with your research." Warrington's hope deflated. Of course, Amelia wouldn't recognize her. She forced a smile. "Nice to meet you, Dr. Chen. I look forward to working with you." As they collaborated over the following weeks, Warrington found herself opening up to Amelia. She was careful never to reveal her true identity, but it was a relief to have someone to talk to who wasn't part of the shadowy organization that had upended her life. One evening, as they were wrapping up for the day, Amelia hesitated by the door. "Emily," she said, using the name Warrington had been given.
I can't help but feel there's something you're not telling me. Is everything all right?"
Warrington's heart raced. She wanted so badly to confide in Amelia, to share the burden of her secret, but the risks were too great. "I'm fine," she lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired, I guess." Amelia didn't look convinced, but she nodded and left. Warrington slumped in her chair, feeling more alone than ever. As the weeks turned into months, Warrington's research progressed. She made breakthrough after breakthrough, each one bringing mixed feelings of pride in her work and guilt over its potential applications. One day, she was summoned to a meeting with the man in the suit, who she now knew as Mr. Blackwood. He sat behind a massive desk, a pleased smile on his face.
"Excellent work, Dr. Warrington,"
he said, gesturing to a report on his desk.
"Your latest findings on stabilizing the transformation process are most impressive."
Warrington nodded stiffly, hating the pride she felt at his words.
"Thank you, sir."
Blackwood leaned forward, his eyes gleaming.
"We're ready to move to the next phase. Field testing on a larger scale."
Warrington felt her blood run cold. "What do you mean?"
"We're going to release a modified version of FEM into the water supply of a small town," Blackwood explained casually, as if discussing the weather. "Nothing too drastic, just enough to affect a small percentage of the male population. We need to see how it performs in real-world conditions."
Horror washed over Warrington.
"You can't! That's monstrous!" Blackwood's smile disappeared. "I don't recall asking for your opinion, Dr. Warrington. Your job is to provide the science, not question its application."
Warrington stood, her fists clenched at her sides.
"I won't be part of this! You can't make me!"
"Oh, but I can," Blackwood replied, his voice dangerously soft.
"Remember your situation, Doctor. You exist because we allow it. Push too hard, and Emily Warrington might meet with an unfortunate accident, just like Warren did."
The threat hung in the air between them. Warrington knew she was beaten, at least for now. She slumped back into her chair, defeated. Blackwood's smile returned.
"I'm glad we understand each other. Now get back to work. We have a deadline to meet."
As Warrington left his office, her mind raced. She couldn't let this happen. Somehow she had to find a way to stop them, to expose the truth. But how? The answer came to her later that night as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She needed help, and there was only one person she could trust. It was a huge risk, but she had no choice. The next day, Warrington approached Amelia in the lab. "Dr. Chen, can I speak with you privately?" Amelia looked surprised, but nodded. They moved to a corner of the lab, away from the cameras. Warrington took a deep breath. "What I'm about to tell you is going to sound crazy, but I need you to listen. My name isn't Emily Warrington. It's Warren. Dr. Warren. We used to work together before all this." Amelia's eyes widened in shock. "What? But that's impossible. Warren died." "No, I didn't," Warrington interrupted. "I was transformed. By FEM. It's not just a drug, Amelia. It's a weapon developed by our own government. And they're planning to use it on innocent people." For a moment, Amelia just stared at her, disbelief written across her face. Then, slowly, recognition dawned in her eyes. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It is you, but how?" Warrington quickly explained everything. Her discovery, the meeting with Agent Thompson, her capture and transformation. Amelia listened in stunned silence. "We have to stop them," Warrington finished. "But I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" Amelia was quiet for a long moment, processing everything she'd heard. Finally, she nodded. "Yes, of course I'll help. What do you need me to do?" Over the next few weeks, Warrington and Amelia worked in secret, gathering evidence and planning their next move. It was slow, painstaking work. They had to be careful not to arouse suspicion. Their break came when Amelia managed to hack into the facility's secure network. She downloaded files detailing the entire FEM project, including plans for the upcoming field test. "This is it," Warrington said, her heart pounding as she looked at the data on Amelia's tablet. "This is what we need to blow this whole thing wide open." Amelia nodded, her face pale. "But how do we get it out? We're under constant surveillance." Warrington thought for a moment. "The annual scientific conference in Washington. We're both scheduled to attend. If we can smuggle the data out." "It's risky," Amelia warned. "If we're caught..." "I know," Warrington cut her off. "But we have to try. Too many lives are at stake." The day of the conference arrived. Warrington and Amelia boarded the plane to Washington, the stolen data hidden in an innocuous-looking flash drive. Warrington's heart was in her throat the entire flight, expecting at any moment for someone to stop them. But they made it to Washington without incident. As they entered the conference center, Warrington spotted a familiar face in the crowd, a journalist she'd worked with in the past, known for his investigative reporting. "There's our chance," she whispered to Amelia. "Cover for me." Warrington approached the journalist, her palms sweating.
"Excuse me, Mr. Lawson. I have something you need to see."
The journalist looked at her curiously.
"I'm sorry, do I know you?" "No, but you knew me once," Warrington replied cryptically. "Please, this is important. It's about a government conspiracy involving a drug called FEM." Lawson's eyebrows shot up. "FEM? I've heard whispers about that. But who are you? How do you know about this?" Warrington took a deep breath. "My name is Dr. Emily Warrington now, but I used to be Dr. Warren. I was transformed by FEM after uncovering the truth about its origins." She quickly explained the situation, showing Lawson some of the files on the flash drive. His eyes widened as he scrolled through the data. This is incredible," he muttered. "If this is true, it's the biggest story of the decade." "It is true," Warrington insisted. "And there's more. They're planning a large-scale test in a small town. We have to stop them." Lawson nodded, his face set with determination. "I'll need to verify all this, of course. But if it checks out, I promise you, we'll blow this wide open." As Warrington turned to leave, Lawson caught her arm. "Dr. Warrington, or Warren, whatever happens, thank you for your bravery. This couldn't have been easy." Warrington managed a small smile. "Just make sure the truth gets out." She rejoined Amelia, her heart pounding. "It's done," she whispered. "Now we wait." The next few days were tense.
Warrington and Amelia returned to the facility, trying to act as if nothing had changed. But inside, Warrington was a bundle of nerves, jumping at every unexpected sound, convinced that at any moment they would be discovered. A week after the conference, it happened. Warrington was in her lab when alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The door burst open and armed guards rushed in. "Dr. Warrington, you're under arrest for treason," one of them barked. As they handcuffed her, Warrington saw Blackwood enter the lab, his face twisted with fury.
"You fool!" he spat. "Do you have any idea what you've done?"
Warrington met his gaze steadily.
"I've done what's right. The truth is out now. You can't hide anymore."
Blackwood's eyes narrowed.
"We'll see about that."
As they led her away, Warrington caught sight of Amelia being escorted out of her lab. Their eyes met briefly, a silent message passing between them. Whatever happened now, they had done what they set out to do. The following days were a blur of interrogations and threats. But Warrington held firm, refusing to give them any information about how she had leaked the data. Then, one morning, everything changed. The door to her cell opened, and instead of the usual guards, a group of FBI agents entered.
"Dr. Warrington, we're here to escort you to a safe location," one of them said. "Your information has been verified, and a full investigation is underway."
Warrington could hardly believe it. As they led her out of the facility, she saw chaos everywhere. Agents were confiscating documents and equipment, arresting personnel. In the days that followed, the story broke worldwide. The existence of FEM, its origins as a government weapon, the forced transformations, it was all laid bare for the public to see. The fallout was immense. High-ranking officials were arrested, committees were formed to investigate, and a massive effort was launched to track down and help all those who had been affected by FEM. Warrington found herself hailed as a hero, though the attention made her uncomfortable. She testified before Congress, sharing her experiences and helping to shape new laws to prevent such abuses of power in the future. As the dust began to settle, Warrington faced a new challenge, figuring out how to live in a world where she was neither fully Warren nor fully Emily. It was a struggle, but with time and support, she began to forge a new identity that incorporated aspects of both. One sunny afternoon, months after the scandal had broken, Warrington sat in a park watching children play. Amelia joined her, sitting down on the bench. "How are you doing?" Amelia asked gently. Warrington considered the question. "Better, I think. It's still strange sometimes looking in the mirror, but I'm starting to feel, whole again." Amelia nodded. "It's a process, but you're strong. You'll get through this." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the peace of the moment. "So, what's next for the famous Dr. Warrington?" Amelia asked with a small smile. Warrington chuckled.
"Famous? That's still weird to think about."
She paused, considering. "I think I want to help others. There are so many people out there affected by FEM, struggling with their new identities. Maybe I can use my experience to make a difference." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.